Good morning, good afternoon, all, depending on where you're sitting. Really excited as we head into a short plenary right now to hear what's going to be a fantastic short talk of just 15 minutes, unfortunately. We're thrilled and honored to have Queen Quet, head of state of the Gullah Geechee Nation, speaking with us. Queen Quet was selected by her people to be the first Queen Mother and official spokesperson for the Gullah Geechee Nation. As a result, she is respectfully referred to as Queen Quet, Chieftess and Head-of-State for the Gullah Geechee Nation. She's a published author, 15 books already to her credit, and she tells me at least 15 more. You'll see that brilliance, energy, and enthusiasm and productivity, even our limited time with her today. The diversity of her interests and background: computer scientist, lecturer, mathematician, historian, columnist, preservationist, environmental justice advocate, environmentalist, film consultant, and artivist. I want to look forward to hearing more about that. She's the founder of the premier advocacy organization for the continuation of Gullah Geechee culture, which is called the Gullah Geechee Sea Island Coalition. She has not only provided histo-musical presentations throughout the world, but was also the first Gullah Geechee person to speak on behalf of her people before the United Nations in Geneva, Switzerland. She's one of the first of 7 inductees into the Gullah Geechee Nation Hall of Fame, and she received the Anointed Spirit Award for her leadership for being a visionary. So I want to turn things over to her right away. There's likely not going to be time for a lot of Q&A after her remarks, because unfortunately we have to get right into sessions at 10:30 Eastern, but encourage everyone, and she does as well, encourage you to post your questions and comments, and she's going to get back to you on that later via a blog. So with no further ado, thank you so much for joining us today, and I hand it over to you, Queen Quet.
Get away, Chile, Jordan. Get away, oh, Chile, Jordan. Get away, Chile, Jordan. I want for cross over for see my Lord. Down here, I need y'all on the thing in the sea. Where I'd be. Or I call it Gullah Geechee Nation. In Jacksonville, North Carolina, down Jacksonville, Florida. On over the Yeti, I cry Geechee too. As we go into the show. You're the Yeti son and chill and say, God, why trouble the water? Way in the water. Way in the water, children, way in the water. God, why trouble the water? All of these, about who we be, that we be Gullah Geechee United people. So no doubt, make this your thing, that the world call is spiritual. But in children, it's like a back of yonder. Yeti him. Yeti all the meaning all day for we. But we know who we be. That we be Gullah Geechee United people. So we be that tree planted by the rivers of the water. Here go me move tall, as we the binya, we in the going away. And now we the cross over the water. We the get away from the shore. We the going in because of this thing now. The rest of the people are kind of be a cracky teacher say they call sea level rise. We say, well, that every day. We got this thing that come in and going out, come in, going on. We call this high tide, low tide. All that means is sea level rise. So when that cracky teach so, we know over sand there. Just like when we do crack, we teach this show, we down. 100 children might know over sand. So when we had it then, we say, we start for, say, okay then, you cross over there, you have a crack we teach their way. So then you can overstand we, even though we the Yeti, we now overstand he. Then we study with him at the cracky teach boat. And then we all can rise this thing together. So we started learning the language of those that were coming as the bridges came more and more, we started to take on this language, especially in public arenas, so that we could overstand. I hate to use the word understand because we've been under too long. It's time to be over something. And at this moment, I think it's apropos to be over an issue, to be above the seas that are rising, to be above the dynamic of thinking that there's only one way to manage this. And that is to retreat in a way that those of us who are Gullah Geechee, from the Gullah Geechee Nation, from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida, do not usually have in our purview, within our mores, within our behavior. We do not run those who are traditionalists. People often would say, well, you live in a hurricane zone. Yes, I'm quite aware that we have 5 seasons here. All right. But they say, well, what do you do? And I said, well, we pray and we stay. And so this has loaned itself to others not being able to truly bridge this gap of overstanding between us and them. But wisdom is the principal thing. So get wisdom, and in all thy getting, get, as you would say, understanding. So for today, I prayed, I meditated. Like I said, we pray and we stay. And at midnight, some words came to me specifically for those who work within this field with this word retreat, that means to run instead of retreat like we do here in the Sea Islands, which is a spa day, darling, and you can relax and enjoy yourself and rejuvenate your spirit, your soul, your strength, so that you can be like the tree planted by the rivers of the water, and ye not be removed amidst the rising sea, amidst the human-based catastrophe. Many of us call it an Anthropocene crisis, because much of that which is defined within the process of what people analyze as retreat and managed retreat is man-made. No doubt why the word managed. All right. What has man aged? And as you age, you should gain wisdom. So I hope that I can add to that process today, because it took me being able to look at the Western world's look at retreat versus my Gullah Geechee world and our look at retreat, to then come in to manage, to gain the wisdom of what you all are really speaking about, what you're grappling with, and what it is that you now want to come to the shore to see. But how can you manage me? There has to be a dialogue with my community. So this is what came to me at midnight last night. And so you all, this is specifically for all those who work in the retreat field. I am the community for which others plan, those others that didn't listen when told that won't stand, because we speak not the same language. You don't hear me until it all starts to rise, the winds and the sea. I watch your buildings break, unlike the oak. And as they hit the waters, you realize it's not a joke. To listen to the knowledge flowing through me, yes, that collective consciousness of the community, the one for which you seek to plan. But how do you plan that which you don't even understand? So for me today, I took the time to take a close look, took the time to try to kind of clear the lens to say, well, can we get a better focus on what is this thing that these folks call manage retreat? So I decided to be scholarly, as one might expect from a computer scientist that graduated with honors. And I thought first about the definitions of the words, but then spiritually, God said, think about it. The spiritual says, which is the official music of the Gullah Geechee Nation and my home state of South Carolina. God's going to trouble the water. But then the question came, but is it God or is it you? And so as human beings, is it God that's troubling the water or is it us when the oceans are acidifying? When we've overbuilt into the waterways, directly into marsh and our estuaries, where these things are not sustainable. As someone who studied engineering, when I first brought up these matters in planning meetings, it was simply referred to as an emotional native, not as a computer scientist, not as a scientist, not as someone who really understands the calculations behind things and what would be now the word of the day, the hashtag of the era, sustainable. So now here comes the Western world categorizing and boxing off who is of value to speak to. So now, because of many issues, they've gone back and gotten that box off the shelf and said, we do need to speak to those who we're trying to plan for. The indigenous communities on the coast, the communities of culture on the coast. So it's interesting to me that in the midst of all these dialogues, I learned some more terminology from the scientific world, the Western world, and in particular from the US governmental world, cost benefits analysis. And I decided I would, as a mathematician, of course, that would be right up my alley, numbers. But I said, let me find out the words that go with the numbers, because we already have a different definition on retreat. And retreat is running for your life. And that's not manageable. And one might also say to manage to retreat is an oxymoron. But then something said to me, but is it just moronic? That people think that they can manage this after they've already destroyed it. So I looked at the word retreat as realistic expectations, traditional reasons, engendering accumulated trust. And then I analyzed that in the face of what I found were the components of managed retreat: coastal planning, relocation and buyback and buyout projects, regulating types of development allowed, designating no-build areas, habitat restoration, replacement of built environment with green space. Now, interestingly enough, nothing would have to be replaced had they listened to the quote, emotional natives. When we walk into meetings and say, why don't you buy out and buy back hotels, resorts that are built into the waterline, built into the ocean, instead of speaking to the natives who've been here 400 to 500 years, living in balance with the earth, who told you never to build there? We know we're not going to tear down the bridges that have already impacted many areas like Hilton Head, for instance, that's here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, that as soon as they built it, they had to shut it down because it had a sinkhole now. And I said, wow, interesting. I, who did a bridge for engineering course and broke the record on a bridge that never got broken, told you that bridge wouldn't stand where you were placing it. Interesting, there's a sinkhole now and you shut it down. We need to shut down the idea that the only way to manage retreat is to say to indigenous communities where our family compounds are that you want to buy us out. Even within your own quote toolkit, there are numerous other things you're not discussing, you're not using while you're retreating from the discussions of coastal planning that cause green space. that are actions of habitat restoration in these places and spaces that damage the habitat to begin with? How come you are not speaking about the fact that you should regulate destructionment, which you all call development? And a very key thing that you can utilize as a guideline now is what we work with within the Gullah Geechee Nation through our Gullah Geechee Sustainability Plan. And that is using the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, the UN SDGs. Because your definition of managed retreat that I looked at says it's the purposeful movement of people, buildings, and infrastructure away from areas vulnerable to flooding, sea level rise, or other climate change hazards. The people are not the only thing that need to be moved. The buildings can be moved. The infrastructure can be altered. We can engineer new types of environmentally balancing infrastructure if you move some of the things that are only there for recreation out of the way, because the value has to be placed on the people. So when we look at cost benefits analysis includes something called net present value. The Gullah Geechee Nation, our people were present on these seashores, in the Atlantic Ocean, on the Sea Islands since the 1500s, 500 years. We cannot be the ones left out of the analysis. The value is always in the cultural community. The value is always in the people and the sustainability of that culture and what that culture has added. There'd be no America without my ancestors. Our sea islands are called barrier islands because they protect mainland America. So do you not value the rest of even the country? If you did, you'd value me because I am the sea, the land that we family, the waterway that we bloodline. And so when you do your analysis, the net present value is the value of what has been present all along prior to the overbuilding. And when you look at cost benefits analysis, it's defined as a systemic or systematic process that businesses use to analyze which decision to make and which to forego. So I challenge you about your decisions of which ones of those tools you pull out of your kit in future discussions of managed retreat. I would say forego saying, let's just get the communities out of there that live in their individual homes on open space of acres of land, and let's start talking to those who are the ones driving up all of our insurance rates because they have multi-million-dollar places built into shorelines. The cost benefits analysis sums the potential rewards expected from a situation or action, and then subtracts the total cost associated with taking the action. Some models assign a dollar value on intangible items. It's supposed to be a tool to support decision-making in projects. The intangible is the culture, it's the spirit, it's the energy, it's the power of the people to sustain ourselves. And culturally, we have done this. We are the community to be the model here in the Gullah Geechee Nation, from Jacksonville, North Carolina to Jacksonville, Florida, on these sea islands and 35 miles inland to the St. Johns River, to show you how naturally we could return a balance to the coastline where we can elevate one another while we elevate buildings and family compounds and invest in the people. But the only way you'll invest in the people is having the people themselves write the plans for not just this generation, but the generations to come. We the Binya, we in the Guino, we're tall. So we invite you to our kind of retreat, to come here to the Gullah Geechee Nation, relax with us amidst this ocean, amidst this salt-strewn air, underneath the oak tree, with that long beard of that Spanish moss will show you that that thing no growing with wisdom and things like that. Or in that thing, get learn on the children something. If one of the yeti there with on the heart, not just with one of mind. And all of this shit we could bring together and things like that. Take that thing, what we call traditional knowledge, and throw them in to what one of the plan. And then maybe one of yeti, how we all can stand. So I call on you from this day forward to once again think about retreating another way, respectful engagements, traditionally retaining environmental actions totally. And then we'll see another way to continue this journey on the shore where retreat will be something that can't be beat, because we'll all be relaxing here together, and the cultural communities will be able to withstand all that we anticipate is coming. There's a new way for us to join together, plan and take a stand, pray and stay. I hope you all are at higher ground today and that you have a blessed rest of the week in this conference about managed retreat. Thank you for having me here. I'm Queen Quet, Chieftess and Head from the body of the Gullah Geechee Nation. You can follow us at Gullah Geechee on Twitter and Instagram, and follow GullahGeecheeNation.com, Gullah Geechee Nation on Facebook. And I would greatly appreciate it if you want to work with us on this plan, because we have a Gullah Geechee sustainability plan and an ocean action plan, to go to GullahGeecheeLand.com, and you can make sure that you can sign up and join us from there. GullahGeechee, A-N-O-I, and Geechee, if it a we. And so I hope that you will join us here on these islands in the sea. We be Gullah Geechee anointed people. Tanky Hadley and Tanky. Oh, see that my buddy is back, Radley. I appreciate both of you, and I pray that this journey is going to be a blessing as you go on and do what you do.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Just beyond words. I'm not going to try to summarize all the fantastic ideas we heard, other than to say that we heard about how words matter. We heard about how we have to think about context, history, broader picture beyond climate change, and nuance as we think about paths forward. So thank you so much. And do be on the lookout, everyone, please, for additional blog posts, and post some of your questions so that we can hear more. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll end this plenary.
Peace.